Welcome. Thank you all for being here today. Big hug and thank you to Art's brother, David, who I've known for a long time and caused us to know each other, Art and I. And just a little housekeeping. We cannot hear or see you, but we want to hear from you. So feel free to ask questions in the Q&A. And as usual, please feel free to connect with Art and James directly. We totally stay out of the way. We want to make sure that you can speak with them directly, and we'll be putting them in touch with you, and feel free to do so. And Art, thank you for being here. Welcome. Take it away.
Thank you, Arthur, and thank you for the introduction and having us. I'm going to give just a couple of minutes on my background and sort of leading to how we came to this. So I have a financial background. I have a CPA and an MBA. And somehow or another, I wound up running large international law firms as the COO. So I was with Sullivan and Cromwell, and the last 15 years or so with Proskauer Rose. And so the sort of the connection to Noble Life, in large part, was formed by my one of my responsibilities in the firm, which was to oversee worldwide corporate social responsibilities. So oversaw a lot of efforts that we had, and sort of kept noticing, realizing, and wondering why they weren't quite as effective as they could be, maybe should be, given the fact that these firms that I ran had enormous resources. So it wasn't like we weren't able to do what we wanted to do. We were running into sort of what I would call infrastructure issues. It was hard to get things done because things just weren't connected, and we had to spend a lot of time, sort of tracking and following up and trying to connect people. So that was one of the impetuses to Jim and I doing this. I'll also make an observation that my family and my brother who's on will chuckle, have always been involved in these sort of ventures. And our grandfather used to go across the street when we lived in the Bronx Lebanon Hospital, and read books to patients there, which we always thought was pretty cool. And it was the beginning of us understanding what that meant. And frankly, I think the world's in a challenging place, maybe in a free fall, and we're hoping that and believing that Noble Life will be a way to hopefully deal with that and slow it down a little bit. So that's my background. Jim?
I come from a legal background. I practiced law in New York City for over 40 years. I retired from a law firm where I was a senior partner, a member of the management committee, overseeing a business really, which was $700 million, a revenue business. So I come from the business side as much as the law side at the moment. I'm an adjunct professor at Fordham Law School, right chief security and corporate law, but I'm very involved in this project with Art. We've been doing it for quite some time, and I'm very enthusiastic and excited about this project. Okay,
so I'm going to start and address what we're addressing. What's the issue that Noble Life is addressing, and what's our solution? Okay, so there's a highly inefficient industry. It's the social good industry, which is an industry. And within that industry, $1 trillion a year is flowing from the donors to the not-for-profits, $1 trillion. Yet there's no central bridge, there's no platform, there's no mechanism to facilitate the millions of transactions. And why is that? So the social good world is very fragmented, and to a very large extent is using 20th century tools. You sort of solicit money by calling people, by sending them a lot of letters. And they're using these tools in a 21st century digital world. It doesn't line up. So we are going to be the bridge and the platform. And our sort of motto and tagline is, we are linking those who need with those who care. And as we'll explain throughout this conversation, doing it in a profitable way. We expect our app and intend for our app to become the preferred and the recognized method that will match donors and not-for-profits anytime and anywhere in any place. And how are we going to leverage on that value proposition? There are 4 revenue streams as follows. There's a transaction fee revenue stream, similar to what credit cards companies charge, a gift card, a gift registry, and marketing of what we believe will be invaluable data analytics to the not-for-profits. And throughout the conversation, we'll explain in more depth the 4 revenue streams. So what's our business model and what's our strategy? Let me take that one, and then Jim will take some other ones. So we believe, and we've been created to bring innovation to the social good world by our app. And as I said, it's one of the $1 trillion industry would not be utilizing technology now. None. And we intend to be the place where donors are going to go to find worthy causes, and where the not-for-profits are going to look to find donors. We've created what we call the Noble Life Universal Platform. That's our name for it. And we are going to place it where people, and particularly young people, live, which is on their smartphones. We're going to be able to therefore have the not-for-profits show what they do and highlight the worthy causes that they have and efficiently match that with the donors. One of the advantages we think we have is this is a geographic play. There are no limitations. So as an example, if you live in, well, New York City, and you're supporting animal rights, animal shelter situations, you can go online, you can find them, your family does it, your friends do it, but you're sort of limited to what you're really going to do, because it gets a whole lot harder to look for the not-for-profit opportunities outside of New York City. And there are many of those opportunities, and donors may feel that they want to get involved in addition to what they're doing in New York City, to other operations and other not-for-profits. And our app very easily enables that connection. The app is free. It is free to the donor. It is free to the not-for-profits.
Another revenue stream would be the giving card or registry. On our platform, we're going to have a quantity, hopefully large universe of not-for-profits, but in everybody's life, there are moments of first communion, confirmation, bar mitzvah, wedding. At these times, people tend to give gifts. Brides and grooms put on a gift registry where they want this toaster and this bedroom set, wherever it may be. We believe that there will be encouragement to say, in addition, on this registry, which would be on a Noble Life registry, we believe in these causes. In addition to getting us a toaster or a tea set or a coffee maker, consider in our name and to celebrate our wedding, giving to this cause, animal shelter, whatever it may be. Likewise, a young person having a bar mitzvah, confirmation, first communion, grandma gives them $20 or gives them a rosary beads or gives them some religious object. We believe another gifting idea would be to give them a Noble Life giving card to show this young person that we always give back as well in important times of our lives. We believe religious communities will embrace this as a way to reinforce the religious or the giving aspect of a given event in a young person's life. We believe these 2 revenue streams will become ubiquitous. They'll become part of the fabric of giving, of moments in persons' lives. We believe this will be an interesting and very lucrative revenue stream over time.
Let me provide a little bit more data on that. We've looked at a variety of sources, all of which I can mention at some point. And there are 14.5 million events that cover births, graduations of high school, college, weddings, and deaths. And so we took a shot at saying, how many people are likely going to be participating in each of those items, and came up with about 200, to be exact, 209 million people that throughout the course of the year would be going to or being involved with 15 million events. And sort of then extrapolating with what we think an average gift size is, and we looked at it by research from the Wedding Wire, the Huffington Post, and others, you sort of get a total addressable market of over $14 billion giving gifts through those events. And there's a significant amount of revenue that we can get from the gift cards and the registries. So while we're talking about numbers and addressable market, let me talk about the social good world in a 30,000-foot level. So the industry is $1 trillion between cash and goods and services. That's 5% of the US GDP. It's the third largest employer in the country between retail and manufacturing. And it would be something like the 17th largest country in the world at $1 trillion, and like the 4th or 5th largest state in the country. So it's large. And there are 1.6 million not-for-profits in the US that we intend to address.
In comment to that, 70% of the adult population gives every year. We're a giving people. That's an enormous amount of people and gifts a year. 70% of the adult population gives annually.
Yeah, that's 150 million people a year. So let me back up a little. So Jim and I have talked about this and started doing this, 5 or 6 years ago. And so maybe an obvious question is, why are we here now? 3 or 4 answers. First one is that we both had full-time jobs. He described what he was doing, and I was running $1 billion law firm. Once we got past that and stopped doing that, we began to focus much more on this, investing in it. And then COVID came along. And so we sort of couldn't do much for those 2 years, which leads us to sort of why we are here now and sort of the history of getting here.
Art, before you go into that, if it's okay with you, aside from COVID and you have full-time gigs and having incubated this over a period of time, would it also be fair to say that because of the low cost of building an app, significantly easier than it was 5 years ago, and the cost and the time to market and all that kind of stuff, I'm imagining that that's going to help catalyze the platform so it's ready to be used.
No, that's true. And when we first started this, I mean, and I don't think an app was costing sort of under what, 500,000-600,000. You can get a really solid app now for 250,000-300,000. We intend to host this on the cloud through one of those major hosting companies. And the general cost of ownership has come down dramatically. And I should point out that we envision signing on with an outside firm that would provide developers, application people, user experience people, security people, et cetera. So yeah, I mean, the cost now of putting this product in play is significantly lower and certainly more advantageous, than what it was.
Got it. Thanks for that.
So thank you. So one of the things that we had done prior to COVID, and we want to do now as a strategy, was to get a number of core partners, in part to prove the concept, and in part to enable us to continue to then go to other not-for-profits and expand by showing that significant players are part of it. So early on, we had conversations with the Fire Department of New York Foundation, with the Waxman Foundation. We were beginning to talk to the Archdiocese of New York, very preliminarily. And the intent is to continue that. Now, you may have surmised that those were all 3 in New York, because that's where we were. But we certainly envision doing this across the country and getting a number of partners to do this. 1, 2, using social media to promote this. 3, looking for celebrity endorsements. There are an awful lot of celebrities with very altruistic views and a huge number of followers. Now, we haven't talked to Taylor Swift, but she's got 80 million followers. We haven't talked to Oprah yet, but we're hoping that we can generate celebrity endorsements. And in addition to celebrity endorsements, there are huge, not huge, but there's a significant number of athletes who are very charitable and have any number of foundations now. My old firm does a lot of work in the sports world, and I would hope that we'd be able to get the introductions at the highest levels. Part of the reason the sports industry is so appealing to us is there are 130 professional teams. If it's baseball, basketball, football, and hockey, they have huge followings. They have their own work that they do in the charitable area. And the numbers become large enough that we believe by partnering with some of them, we will turn followers that they have into our users. And by the way, in terms of some things that we've done, which tie into sports, early on, we did an event with the New York Yankees where we took about 40 or 50 seniors from what was either the oldest or one of the oldest senior centers in the city. They happen to be based in the Bronx. And I'm getting a little bit of the chills as I tell you this. This was probably one of the single best days of my life. So we arranged for buses and we got there, and the Yankees gave us tickets, and everyone had, hot dogs and French fries. And almost every comment that I got was, this was awesome. We have never been to a live baseball game. Right. So that's just one example of reaching out to the community.
Let me interrupt there. It's a good example how the Yankees embrace this, and we believe that we'll take this next step further with the universal platform. The other issue to keep in mind is the 1.6 million not-for-profits. We know who they are. They're not unknown to us. They make IRS filings, which are public information. Who they are is very simple to find out and very simple to reach. They also have conventions, they have conferences, they have panels. They congregate often, and we would be part of that experience as well, bringing our message to them. Another value that we bring to the giving and social good industry is we will vet our not-for-profits. They must have been in business for a year. They must have followed the proper IRS forms. They must have the proper IRS permissions. And therefore, if you come on our platform and you see a given not-for-profit, could be an animal shelter in Phoenix, you can have some confidence there's been at least some level of vetting on our part. There's a legitimate not-for-profit which has been properly commissioned by the IRS. So there's some sort of curating as well on that side. So getting the not-for-profits, the value proposition for them is it's free, and we know who they are, and we'll find them.
Most of the not-for-profits are small to relatively small. And in fact, Jim, if you don't mind, it's page 17. If we can put a scroll down to that. And I'll not read the whole page, but I'll give you the highlights. Right. So there's 1.6 million not-for-profits. This page indicates the breakout of them by category. And so you've got roughly 65% of them under $500,000 of revenue each year. And other than the 20 or so percent that have some significant funding, and it's actually, we think it's probably closer to those, only the ones over 5 million, these not-for-profits do not have funding. They do not have technology. They don't have enough staff. They struggle. They struggle every day to get a donor, keep the donor. And with the kind of cutbacks that's been in federal funding and state funding, they're in fairly dire situations now. And since this page happens to be up, why don't I address the two columns on the right? So one of our 4 revenue streams was the marketing of data to these organizations. And we are contemplating charging a fee for that. And you can see for the first 2 tiers, which represent 30% of these organizations, we'd be at a $20 a month charge. And then you can see how it goes up a little bit for each of the organizations. So given my financial background, I sort of did a little bit of a present value analysis, right? So somebody gives $50, or let's just say we can get one person who hasn't been giving to give $50 and does it for the next 30 years. And in a second, I'll address why that's actually quite reasonable. The present value of that at a 3% discount rate is $1,000. It's actually $1,009 to be exact. The cost of that, the present value of that cost is a couple of dollars, right? Because we're taking only a 2.5% transaction fee. So it's hugely beneficial to a not-for-profit who has a free software and only gets charged a little bit, or maybe not a little bit, a transaction fee if in fact we generate activity for them. So the reason we think this is also important to the social giving world is the following. The cash portion of the $1 trillion item is somewhere in the $400 to $500 billion range. It's 400 plus for individuals, and then you've got foundations and organizations like that. A 1% uplift. Now, I understand everyone uses 1% and it may or may not be doable, but from a mathematical perspective, a 1% uplift is $4 billion. $4 billion additional money going into not-for-profits. How many people can that feed? How many dogs can that take care of? How much education could that be in additional literacy? Substantial. So I just wanted to sort of point that out.
To that point as well, there's an interesting take on this, and that's impulse giving. And we believe that's significant market, which is totally underserved, if served at all. You're watching television, you see a forest fire in California, you see a hurricane in Florida, you see an earthquake somewhere. If you have the Noble Life platform on your smartphone, you'll find, how can I help? Americans are like that. Right away, how can I help? You press a button, you make a contribution. Without that app, it would never have happened. You would never got a computer. It's very difficult, time consuming, put your credit card in. This is very simple.
One of the reasons we think this is appealing, in particular to the millennial, Gen X, Gen Y, the younger people give, and something like 70-75% of them give at some point. So we think this is much more appealing to the younger generation who live on their phones and like impulse buying.
We have a question, if you don't mind. I'm going to paraphrase. This sounds like it could function as a organization that not only catalyzes the giving part of it, but credentials the nonprofit. So the problem has regularly been, as a donor, wondering, how much of my money is actually going to where it's intended, and who's the watchdog.
So let's talk about that. So GuideStar is the organization. And GuideStar also sort of provides what Jim had suggested, which is the ability to find the not-for-profits, because most of them are registered with GuideStar. We also want to take it a step further in that unless the organization, the not-for-profit, has been in business a year with a 9900 filing, at this point, we don't contemplate them being on the platform. Now, we just want to make sure that we're not helping to raise funds for not-for-profits that perhaps we shouldn't. Now, we recognize that that could be, and is, a challenge with respect to impulse giving for disasters like hurricanes. And the way to deal with that is to almost have a pre-approval of organizations like the Red Cross and others that go in for these significant problems. It's actually a very interesting point, and frankly, we hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about it. But I think apropos to our conversation about the millennials, they're much more concerned, thankfully, about what is being done with the money that they contribute. So thank you. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Our smart and successful friend Heather suggests that, or asks that this could also serves as a syndication platform. For instance, I have 500,000 committed to such and such project, and I'm looking for the incremental 250,000.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I think that fits in with our philosophy that we become sort of the intermediary between all these things that we're talking about. We want to be the Amazon of the social good world. You think of something you want to do, you think it was something you want to, an organization you want to be with, and boom, you connect on our platform. You got 1.6 million organizations that want to help. I mean, where do you find that? And yet don't have a tool, one tool that can help them. Our tagline is linking those who care, and there's 150 million people who care, and we will do it in a profitable way.
Hey, Art, would you mind talking a little bit more about others that are doing similar things?
Sure.
In sort of piecemeal?
Right. Right.
And so people can get a sense that there is activity, but
Sure.
it's not been converged all into one.
Right. Right. So the one thing I'm absolutely not going to say, because everyone would laugh, is there's no competition. Of course there is. So PayPal runs about $10 billion a year through their systems that go to charitable organizations. You have the option when you buy something from Amazon, they'll make a donation of some percentage to an organization that you pick. Surprisingly low amount though, given their volume. The credit card companies, Amex, Visa, MasterCard. So there are people who are doing this, but it's still a relatively small percentage.
It's a nice afterthought, but it's not a primary focus. While you're there, if you want to give some money, you can round up some places. You go to a store and they say, would you like to round up and give to a charity? But I'm not sure that someone has really had the focus of strictly having a platform that has the not-for-profits and the donors, and they're matching each other.
So our friend Javier recognizes what you said, there's 1.5 million organizations and you can find them. Tens of thousands in each category. How can, as an organization, one stand out in your app? Will the app be enabled to help with events, auctions, that sort of thing?
Yes, yes. Every organization will have the ability to post promotional items about themselves.
In terms of standing out, we believe that the not-for-profit, in addition to having just some basic facts on the splash page, when we go to that, some basic facts about it. We helped 420 dogs last year. We prevented 1,700 dogs from being euthanized by having shelters find them for them. So have some background of who they are, what they're doing, and what they're really engaged in, and how your money is going to be used.
So whatever you're going to talk about next, maybe thereafter talk about the ask.
So we are asking for $3 million for 20% of the company. The $3 million would go into two primary buckets, technology being the key, and the second being the branding and the marketing. The feeling being, we obviously need to have an app that people are going to use, and be good if they know we're around, the branding and the marketing. And we have very detailed financials that we can share to show how we put all this together.
And assuming that you got funded shortly, how long would it take to have a minimal viable product in terms of the app?
6 to 9 months. A competitive app is a 6 to 9 month process.
Yeah.
At the same time, we would be laying the groundwork for the branding efforts by having conversations with organizations that we've mentioned to start the process. And once the app is ready for showtime, we hit everything fast. Yeah.
So let's wrap it up with what's the best way, aside from the obvious, just contact Art you directly?
Yeah, me or Jim.
Yeah.
Do people have our email and phone type?
You're going to get
information?
you're going to get a list of everybody, and you can send something
Okay.
to them. And then,
Great.
the number of things that we posted have your email on it, so they can find it there as
Okay.
well.
So I'd
Well-
like to say, on behalf of Jim and I, thanks to you, Arthur, for organizing
Of
it.
course.
Thank
Yeah.
you, David, for introducing us. And to everyone who participated, we've quite enjoyed it and appreciated the opportunity to explain something that we put a lot of time in and our soul is in.
You're so very welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We enjoyed it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And as I always say to the group, thank you for sharing with us the only thing you can't make more of, and that's your time. Until
Yeah.
next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.